Well, this has got to be one of my most harebrained ideas, and I'm almost a little embarrassed to show it, but if you're seeing this, there must be some reason I posted it. I want walleye for my pond, and I can't hardly justify paying. Jones Fish is about an hour away in Cincinnati, Ohio, and they want $7 a piece for them, and I can't justify that. There's another place that's 2 hours away. They want like, I forget, it was 4 or 5, and I'm gonna have to wait till fall to get them. I'm a little nervous that the fingerlings in the fall won't do well in transferring to the pond. I have seen statistics that show that older fish don't transition as well, and that fry, when stocked in, do better. So because I don't want to pay big money for them in the fall, and because they may do better, the survival rate of the fry may be better, mostly for money, I don't want to pay for them. I don't want to wait for them. And this is something I've kind of always wanted to do. So what I did was, rather than pay for one of those McDonald, what do they call them? McDonald Douglas or McDonald hatching jars, or a hatching jar setup, kind of jerry-rig my own setup here. So I'm using the ladder as a support for that vinyl tubing. I've got a pump down in my tank, so I'm gonna use this. It's gonna be a recirculating system. I want to say that's like a 450 gallon per hour pump from Amazon. I read some reviews on them that say that they're rated at, the rating is based on 240 volt, that they shouldn't be sold in the US market, but they're selling them anyhow. So the ratings on the pumps are actually only, you're only going to get about half the rating. So that's like 450. So if I'm getting 200 and some, the maximum lift on it is supposed to be 5 feet. I figure if I can get maximum lift of about 2.5 feet, would be, half of it. It should be able to push enough flow. I figure a little over a gallon is probably gonna be the max flow that I want. I've got a shut-off valve in line with it. It's a ball valve, so I should be able to adjust the flow. And it's a tea pitcher, you can see that. I used a bowl. I got the tea pitcher for $5 at the dollar store. The bowls were sitting on the shelf right next to it. So I used a bowl, and I sized it down enough to sit down in the lip where the lid should sit in the tea pitcher. So it's got these 4 little supports all the way around it. So the lid sits in there real nice. I cut a hole, drilled a hole in it, big enough to support my 1-inch PVC pipe. That PVC pipe, it's supported up here on the lid, and it holds that PVC pipe up just about a 1/4 inch up off the bottom. The bottom here is another one of these dollar store bowls. It was like a 4-pack for $1. I sanded off the lip on the bottom, and then I had to sand the edge down until it got to the right diameter to fit down there in the bottom. Because the way that those McDonald jars work is they kind of rely on that concave shape to help roll the eggs around. The adhesive that you see there is JB Weld plastic bonder. I called JB Weld customer service, and the lady said that all JB Weld products, or well, this one in particular, I think she said all, but I know I asked specifically about this. Their products are non-toxic after full cure. Well, this JB Weld plastic bonder is supposed to full cure in like a half an hour. So I put this system together, I don't know, a couple hours ago. I washed it all, I took it in the house and washed everything in Dawn dish liquid and a little bit of bleach to try to disinfect everything, because I don't want to introduce a bunch of germs in here. I took a heat gun and I bent the lip down a little bit on that tea pitcher, because it was kind of vertical. When I bent it down, it kind of separated the plastic a little bit, so I put a little bit of that plastic bonder there, and I also added a drip of the plastic bonder to cause it to drip into my little plastic shoebox. Picked that up at Home Depot for like $1.50, I think. I drilled some holes in it and used more of that plastic bonder to put this screen on. University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point is a aquaculture research facility, and they have some really good videos online, and they have videos about raising fry, hatching larval fry and raising fry. And they use 400 micron screen for their larval fry. So this I bought on Amazon as an aquarium filter bag, and then I cut it down, and that's the filter media there. It was listed as like 100 mesh, 100 ultra fine mesh. You know how those Amazon listings are. So I'm hoping that was that's 100 micron. It might not be. It might be actually like 100 mesh, like a sieve size. I don't know. It looks really, really fine. I don't think it's coming across on camera. There's multiple sizes of thread there. I think the camera's probably only picking up the larger thread. There is smaller thread inside that's woven to the larger thread. So it actually does have really, really fine screen on it. So then I've got it all supported on that white container. The idea with that is, one, it gets it up a little bit so that I'm not bent over quite so far and I can see what's going on in the jar a little better. The other thing is, because this is a recirculating system, I'm hoping that will act like a degasifier so that the water will come out of the pitcher. It's going to be pumped into the pitcher, circulate the eggs, come up out of the pitcher into the catch container. Any fry that will hatch will be contained in here because they won't be able to pass through the screen. The water will pass through the screen, dribble down, dribble across, all the grate that I have, the support there. It'll dribble down across that white, and it will lose then any gas that it's picked up, carbon dioxide coming out of the eggs. I don't expect that that's going to be a requirement, but if nothing else, it does get it up and makes it a little handier for me to work around it. Because I've got an aquarium pump that I use for my lure making stuff. So I'm not making any lures right now. I just went ahead and threw some couple of stones down in there, so I'm going to run that aquarium pump. Now the temperature, I'll have to look at it again. I want to say the temperature range is supposed to be like 40 to 45 to 54 degrees, something like that. I'm out here in my shop and it's cool. It's still March. The shop temperature has been ranging anywhere from 55 to 60 degrees. I put some ice jugs in the freezer, and I need to get a thermometer out here, but I'm going to use well water. I'm going to go fill up a well, or fill up some tanks from some family members have wells. I'm going to go fill up this system with well water, and if the temperature is too warm, which I expect it will be, I'm going to put blocks of ice jugs, so they'll be sealed. They're just gallon jugs that I've got filled up with tap water. I'll put those in there, and hopefully that will keep the water cold enough, and I'll have to manually regulate that, putting those ice jugs in, which I just realized a problem. I don't have much room to work with to slide those jugs in, so I may have to do something different there. So that's the system. And now I need to round up some walleye. That's going to be the hard part. So there is a local reservoir, takes me about 40 minutes to get there. They've got walleye in it. The walleye are starting to spawn. I was there the other night trying to catch some, and no dice. So I'm going to go back again tomorrow night. I'm hoping that the spawn is just kicking in. I'm hoping I can get one good female and a handful of males. And it's just that one female is going to be tough to get. The males are not typically too hard to catch there, I guess, but I haven't had great luck, but I have never really put in much effort to catching them. I'm going to put in much more effort now this season, see if I can't get at least one female and 3 males. That'd be great. If I could get 2 females and 4 or 5 males, I'd be tickled to death. So that's the setup. Well, here we are. It's about 3 weeks later, and you can see I've got everything running. I had it running, you know, for a few hours after I put it together just to make sure everything was gonna work like I thought it would. And then I shut it off, and again, it's been about 3 weeks. So I just plugged it in to let everything circulate again. I added something I didn't realize when I first put it together was when I shut the power off, it siphoned back out. So that first night when I was playing with this thing, when I unplugged it out of the wall, it siphoned everything out back. So I put an anti-siphon in. I bought that on Amazon. I think that little apparatus there was just a few dollars just by itself, but it works well. I figure if I get some eggs and I put them in there, and if the power blinks out or the pump dies or something like that, I don't want it to suck all my eggs out and dump them in the tank. So that thing seems like it's working good now. So it's been 3 weeks. I've been fishing really hard. I had really bad luck early. Then I got hooked up with a guide, and he took me out. Of course, I paid him. He took me out, showed me, you know, some tricks, and things changed pretty good for me. So I've been catching a bunch of males, but I've only heard of like 3 females being caught this year until tonight. And I took my nephew out with me tonight. It's a miserable night. It's 37 degrees. You see the boat's all wet. It's been raining and snowing on us. I just backed in here. It was blowing. I was frustrated. It was hard to control the boat and all the wind. There was a bunch of guys there at the reservoir. I couldn't believe how many people were toughing it out tonight. Nobody was catching a whole lot, but I was just telling my nephew, you know, all these people around, and, you know, people coming in real close to you and checking out. I mean, some people are kind of rude, and I was telling him, you know, it doesn't do any good to get frustrated when guys come in close on you, because you could be fishing with a guy in the same boat, one guy catching fish on one side of the boat and the other guy on the other side not. It doesn't do any good to get, you know, aggravated with guys fishing around you, and, you know. So I said, you know, best thing you can do, just chat somebody up. They come in on you, you know, real close or whatever. You never know. You might be a nice guy. You might sit there and fish next to you for a couple hours and have a good time. That happened to me a few days ago. I was set up close to the bank. Some guy walked down and just parked his butt right in front of my boat. Started casting right off the bow. Rather than getting frustrated, my first thought was, hey, prick, why don't you go somewhere else? But rather than do that, started chatting with the guy. Turns out he's a real nice guy. He sat there with his wife for a few hours, and they didn't catch anything. I caught one and lost another one at the boat. But so anyhow, that kind of proved to me that night, you know, don't get frustrated with people. They're just there to have a good time too. I'm pulling up on guys because there's no room. You know, there's a certain area of the reservoir where the walleye are spawning, and it's limited space, and a lot of people enjoy doing it. So tonight we had some guy come kind of close to us after I just got done telling my nephew, you know, don't get frustrated. Everybody's here to have a good time. You know, just be good to people and they'll be good to you. About an hour after I telling him that, some guy come through, not real close, but I just hollered over at him, hey, you guys doing any good tonight? Yeah, we got 4 in the box. I was, man, that's pretty good, you know, tonight's a miserable night. We only got 2. He said, yeah, there's some guy up there. You see that? Got a little campfire going? Yeah, I seen that. He says, that guy's got a big female. Oh, really? Well, we went buzzing over there. We reeled in the lines, and because my nephew's just as into this fish stuff as I am, we reeled in lines, and we went over there and talking to them guys at that campfire. Yeah, we got a big female. I said, man, this is going to sound crazy, but I got this set up at the house. Would you mind if I took the eggs out of that female? I said, I got a couple of males in my live well. He said, yeah, you can have the eggs, but I want the fish. He's going to take it home and eat it. you mind if I take that fish with me back over to the boat ramp? And I said, I got all my stuff in the back of the truck. He's, you mind bringing your stuff over here and you can do it over here? Said, yeah, that'd be no problem, man. I know. He thought I was going to run away with his fish. I get that. That's understandable. So we went back to the boat ramp, got all stuff out of the back of the truck. I've got 2 totes I've been hauling around full of towels and containers and clay and just all kind of stuff. I got aerators in there just in case, a bunch of little containers, umbrella, just all kind of stuff I've been keeping in here in case. Sure enough, he had that big female. We had a couple of males. One of his buddies caught another male while we were there, so we played science experiment on the side of the lake tonight. 2 o'clock in the morning, 37 degrees, snowing and raining on us. That one big female, 27 inches long female, and we mixed milk from the 2 males that we had caught plus the one that his buddy had just caught. And we got a bunch of fertilized eggs. Hopefully they're fertilized. Mixed them up as gently as possible with a paintbrush. We did the dry method. We kept, we actually rolled the fish up in towels to dry them off. Put the milk into small containers, covered it up. Each male got its own little container because we didn't want to contaminate with water and activate the sperm. So we did each male in its own little covered container. We got the female up there. She was very ripe. I mean, just touching her and eggs were coming out. Rolled her up in a towel. Put all her eggs in this bowl, worked them into the bowl. You guys look for other videos. It's easy to find, spawning videos. Put the eggs in there, took all the milk, poured it in, just little, it wouldn't be, each male only contributed maybe 3 to 5 milliliters of milk. Almost none came out of these males, and they were in the neighborhood of 16, 17 inches long. We put the milk in, then we rinsed the milk containers with water, where we put the milk in, mix it up with our paintbrush as gently as possible, and then when the water hits that stuff, it activates it, and you have something like 12 to 15 seconds that sperm is active for to fertilize those eggs. So we had put the milk in on the eggs, then we swish a little water around with that other milk and, cleaning all our little containers out in on top of the eggs and continue to stir. Put a little bentonite slurry in there, bentonite clay slurry that I'd prepared, mixed it all around, and it's been sitting for a couple hours. These eggs have, I would say, doubled in size in those 2 hours since we've done this. Yeah, about 2.5 hours. So I'm gonna let them sit here for another hour or so. Let them harden up completely. Then I'm gonna go ahead and I'll take some of the water out of my system and I'll flush all this crap. Unfortunately, the water around the lake is just full of stuff where the guys were sitting that, had the fish. And the only water that I had access to, of course it was lake water. It was just scum floating on the water for 5 feet off the bank. I couldn't get any clean water, so it's got these sticks and stuff in it. No big deal, but I'll flush all that stuff out with some clean water out of my system here in about an hour or so, or a couple hours. I don't know. I might kind of pick up an egg and see how hard it is. I haven't fooled with them at all. Actually, I can kind of feel them. Oh, no, that one, I felt that one popping against my finger, so they need to harden up a little bit yet. Maybe another hour or 2. I'll rinse them off, get them in the jar, and then I'll show you what it looks like then. I know this is a long video, guys, but this is, I want to put as much information out there in case somebody else is wanting to do this, so. Long and boring, but that's kind of par for my course anyhow. I'll catch you up here in a little bit. Well, it is now about 6:40 a.m. and we spawned those walleye on the bank at about 2 a.m. So it's been about 4 hours and 40 minutes. You can see I've got them. I got the eggs out of the jar now. That's I rinsed the eggs multiple times with clear water and just drained off. I didn't think to show you guys. Again, there's so many walleye spawning videos, you know, on YouTube that, you know, like look for University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point. They do a phenomenal job of showing all this stuff. But anyhow, I rinsed them off real good with lake water. I brought home a bucket of lake water with me. Rinsed all that bentonite clay out of them and just drained it off. You know, rinse it, put a cup of water in, and then drain off, and then put a cup of water in, drain it off. So I got all that bentonite clay pretty much out of them. There's the residue from it at the bottom. That stuff, it's got some hard particles in it. So I rinsed all the bentonite clay off, and then I went ahead and did a iodine rinse, and I erred on the side of caution in that I didn't want to kind of overdose them with iodine. So again, University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point, they said do 100 parts per million iodine sort of bath for 15 minutes. I didn't know to call this 10% or 1%. You know, it's kind of got it listed both ways there. So again, I erred on the side of caution and called it 10%. And when I mixed it up, it looked, well, there it is, very, very diluted. So I think it probably ended up being more like, rather than 100 parts per million, I think it ended up being like 10 parts per million. So anyhow, again, err on the side of caution, and I didn't know if I was going to do that rinse anyhow, so I did. I gave them a little, you know, 15-minute bath in a very weak iodine solution. I don't know if it'll do any help, but hopefully it didn't do any harm. And again, then I was using clear water out of my system to rinse that iodine out of them. And the water temperatures, I guess I didn't mention that. I've been monitoring the water temperatures. So the temperature in the lake, according to my boat Garmin unit, was 44 degrees. The temperature in the system, according to these two little aquarium thermometers, is about 46 degrees. So we're within a couple of degrees, so I really don't think there's, you know, any trouble, you know, I'll cause any trouble by temperature-wise. So after I rinsed all the iodine stuff off, I poured them in the jar there, plugged my pump in, and there you see it. Now you can see these little dark flecks that are, you know, rolling around in there. Those are pieces of bentonite that, again, you know, it's just in there. There's not a whole lot I'm going to do about it. I think I have it set, kind of hard to see, but until you shine some light on it. I think I've got it set pretty good. It's rolling kind of vigorously up here. If you walk around to the back of the thing, it's moving. And I've sat here for a while and kind of pick one egg and kind of watch it and see what it does. It's moving. So I think between this moving not real fast here, it's moving a little better over here, and up here in the front, kind of really rolling. I think it more or less averages out. I think what will be okay. I don't know, I guess time will tell. This is my first time doing this. When I first put everything in the jar, turned it on, I was getting all kind of particles, little, you know, fleshy bits. You can see some of that stuff floating around in there still. Just little junk floating around, broken eggs and stuff. Got quite a bit of that in here. Started to plug up the screens just a little bit. I mean, it wasn't causing any danger yet, but just sort of preemptively, I went ahead and took my finger and just kind of rubbed all the crap off the screen there, and then dumped that tote out. Now that won't really become important until they start hatching. So You know, that's a big if they ever do hatch, you know, if this thing works out. So, yeah, it's pushing 7 a.m. and I can't even remember what the heck the date is. It's like April 7th or something like that. So I'll probably check in tomorrow, maybe the next day. I don't expect to really be able to see anything until about day 3. So I'll show you guys something when I got something to show you. Oh, water temperatures. So kind of ideal temperatures, start them out about 46. And then at the end of, I think, 2 weeks, you should be about 55, something like that. So we're starting out ideally, and this is just in my shop. I haven't put any ice jugs in or anything like that. It just happens that the water temperature in the shop has been, it's about perfect. It's just about 46 degrees. So anyhow, I'll catch you guys up here in a couple days. Okay, a little update on how it's going. We are about 44 hours after spawning. And again, we did the spawning on the bank, then I brought them home, and it took me, I want to say it was about 4 hours to put the eggs into the jar here. So the eggs have been in the jar for about 40 hours, and I'm a little bit nervous about what I'm seeing. For one, after I made that first video, I sat out here and kind of scrutinized my flow. I slowed it down a little bit. I did a little more research. They need more flow later on. So early on, they're not supposed to have quite as much flow. So I did slow it down quite a bit, and there's parts of the jar that are really moving, and then there's parts of the jar that are not moving as quick. I'm a little bit nervous because it's getting cloudy in there, and I'm seeing white eggs, which I know are not good, but there's been white eggs the whole time. I know they get like a fungus, and they talk about siphoning off. You know, take a siphon, stick it down in there, and pull the white eggs off. My thing is, there's not really a layer of white eggs. They're kind of just getting mixed all through, and I'm nervous about that. So it's cloudy, and the white eggs are getting all mixed throughout, which they've been mixed throughout. They never did develop a layer on top yet. Maybe it's too early for that fungus stuff, but maybe, I'm afraid that's what I'm seeing, that cloudiness on the side of the jar. Temperature wise, it's been holding in the high 40s. I just checked it. I've been gone for a few hours. I just checked it, and it's almost 50. So I put a jug of ice down there. And it seems like twice a day so far, I've been coming out here. Whenever I come out to check on it, I have to clean the little screen there because it's accumulating like broken eggs and stuff. So I take a toothbrush, I clean the screen on the front and the back, then on the front again, and then I quickly just take the whole thing and dump it in a bucket, stick it back up there. So I'm losing water in my system, but I'm okay with that because I'm gonna change that water out. I figure probably tomorrow. You know, that'll be 2 full days on that water. I mean, ideally, I would want to be using fresh water the whole time, and that would help flush any contaminants out. You know, any fungal stuff that might be growing is trapped in my system. I don't have ideal setup here. You know, if I had a well or something right here, that'd be great, but I don't. So at about a gallon per hour, I mean, you know, a gallon a minute rather, you know, that's 60 gallons in an hour times 24. I'm not even gonna do that math in my head. I mean, that would take a tremendous amount of flow just to keep this one little jar going. So I'll try to get 2 or 3 days out of the water, and that one there is full, so I'll dump this system tomorrow. It's evening right now, it's almost 10 o'clock. So I'll probably dump that tomorrow, refill it with that, and then go get some fresh. Again, it's at my sister's house, and she lives about 10 miles away, so it's not like it's just right next door either. So that's just a little update here. Okay, quick little update here. We're not quite 3 full days in. I changed out the water. You can see my tub's gone now. I used another pump, so I didn't disrupt everything as much. I dropped another little pump in there and then ran the hose out the door. pumped it out till there was as much as it could pump out. There was about so much left in there, and then I bucketed that back in. So I went ahead and cleaned my screen again. That's the first time I've cleaned it today, so you know, that's a little bit of a change. I'm not getting quite as many broken eggs and stuff out, which may or may not be a good thing. The cloudiness continues, and I don't know what to think about it, guys. I think the cloudiness is getting a little worse. The eggs are getting sort of a dingier color. Maybe that's good. I don't know. First time I've done this. So anyhow, we're almost 3 days in. Temperature's about 50 degrees. I'm not gonna put ice in it. And again, my range is 46 to 55, so 50 degrees. I'm kind of right in the middle there. I'd rather it not go up above 50. So if it creeps up any higher, I'll put a jug of ice back in here again. I think I've done that twice now. I think I put a jug of ice in it earlier today. That's the update for now. Okay, so here's an update. We're over 4 days in. You can see that we're starting to develop. I'm shining a light there, so it's messing with the color just a little bit. Some of the eggs are, some of the white ones are kind of separating out, and I think there's a few more white ones in there every day. If we get right in on them, it's really hard to tell. I mean, it's hard to see those eggs, but it does look like there's something going on in them, in those yellow orange ones. There's just something kind of changing every day. There's a little shape inside the egg, which should be, I mean, I don't have a microscope or anything to look at them, but they should be developing around the yolk sac. So I'm gonna take some of this aquarium tubing. I'm gonna start a siphon, and I'm gonna run this aquarium tubing down on the inside and see if I can't draw off some of them white eggs. Because apparently those white eggs will kind of contaminate the whole batch. And you're supposed to get them out of there. So I'm gonna try my hand at that. All right, well, I sucked out some eggs, and a few things that I just learned. One, and I realized this for the last few days, but when I built this thing, I didn't have holes in this red cap. So I had to take everything apart and drill holes in that red cap just now, and to allow me access in there. Then once I had access, I realized that my that little aquarium tubing, that, you know, your standard aquarium tubing, was not large enough diameter. It would suck up 1 or 2 eggs, but then it would clog really quickly. So I got a piece of this poly tube that I had laying around, and I just stuck that inside some vinyl just to give me more length to get a siphon. But when I disrupted the system, I had to, you know, pull the water line out to get the cap off to drill it, and when I did that, I screwed up and I didn't shut off the water. I just pulled the line up. Well, it caused the eggs to swirl around in there. I just wasn't thinking. Well, when it did that, it flushed some of them out. And I guess it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. I flushed some eggs out, but probably the biggest portion of them are white eggs anyhow, because they're more buoyant than the good eggs. But there are some good eggs floating around in there. And you can see that there is definitely, well, it's not going to focus great. You can see there is definitely something going on in those eggs. So I take that as a real good sign. There's a bunch of them stuck to the screen there. I mean, you can see that sort of a yellowish globule inside those eggs. Some of them kind of look like a little dark speck in there. So that's actually very promising, because I've got such, I don't know, bad feeling that this is just not going to work out. So it's nice to get that little bit of reassurance that, yeah, I think they are developing. So I was able to draw some. I kind of did what I could. I think I was getting more white eggs out than I was yellow, but I was getting a few yellow, a little more than I'd like, and so I stopped. I got what I could. I got, you know, a little bit that was on top there. I need to dump this anyhow because it's going to clog that screen. I don't think there's any way that I could get those eggs back in there without causing more of a disturbance. It's just going to flush them back out anyhow. So we're just going to say those are going to be a loss. So I'm going to clean the screen with my little toothbrush. I'm going to dump it in that bucket of eggs that I have siphoned off. And then rather than dumping them in the yard and giving them zero chance of survival, I'm going to take them over to the pond and dump them in. Odds are they're not going to make it in the pond either, but at least they've got a chance in the pond. So there's your update. All right, here's a little update. Today is Friday, April 15, and the eggs have been spawned for 6 days. It is, you probably can't see the clock over there, but it's 3:15 a.m. I'm just now getting in from fishing. I think that's the last time I'll go for this nighttime fishing for walleye during the spawn. I think they're just about done. So here we are, April 15. I didn't expect to be going this late, but we did. We caught 5 of them tonight again. So put those over in the pond. So hopefully some of these will hatch out. I'm a little encouraged to see that there's a color change noticeable today. So just a little bit of a green tint to the jar because I was kind of disappointed after I pulled all those white eggs out yesterday. I was out here for hours last night. I siphoned off those white eggs probably 5 or 6 different times. The system hiccuped on me a couple times moving stuff around, and it caused it to like swirl and I'd lose a bunch of eggs. I did kind of devise a little system with some tubing to get the eggs back in, the eggs that I was losing in the shoebox. I was able to get them back in the jar. I had to do that, unfortunately, I had to do that a couple times last night because I was getting air bubbles in the line. Every time an air bubble would come through, it would cause a disturbance in the jar. So anyhow, I was pretty frustrated last night, but I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing here today. The temperature has been running about, I just checked it, it's about 53, 54 degrees. So I think we're doing pretty good. So 6 days in, I'll update you guys maybe tomorrow. Well, I'm working on editing the video, guys, and unfortunately I'm gonna have to split it in half. So stay tuned for part 2.